Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Shodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Shodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Sunatira Vanachari Munatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Pariprajapacharya Ashtottara Shri Śrimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Iti etat kotitam gurvi jnanam tad brahma darshanam yena anubudhyate tattvam prakritehe purushasya cha iti etat katitam gurvi jnanam tad brahma darshanam yena anubudhyate tattvam prakrite purushasya cha iti etat katitam gurvi jnanam tad brahma darshanam yena anubudhyate tattvam prakrite purushasya cha iti etat katitam gurvi jnanam tad brahma darshanam yena anubudhyate tattvam prakrite purushasya cha.
Ityetat katitam gurvi jnanam tad brahma darshanam yena anubudhyate tattvam prakrite purushasya cha ityetat katitam gurvi jnanam tad brahma darshanam yena anubudhyate tattvam prakrite purushasya cha.
Ladies.
Ityetat katitam gurvi jnanam tad brahma darshanam yena anubudhyate tattvam
Iti, thus, etat, this, kotitam, described, gurvi, O respectful mother, jnanam, knowledge, tat, that, brahma, the absolute truth, darshanam, revealing, yena, by which, anubudhyate, is understood, tattvam, the truth, prakrite, of matter, purushasya, of spirit, cha, and. My dear, respectful mother, I have already described the path of understanding the absolute truth, by which one can come to understand the real truth of matter and spirit and their relationship. Jnana yogascha manishto Nirgunyo bhakti lakshanaha Tvayorapyeka evarto Bhagavat chabda lakshanaha Jnana yoga philosophical research cha and matnishtaha directed toward me. Nirgunyaha, free from the material modes of nature. Bhakti, devotional service. Lakshanaha, named. Tvayo, of both. Abhi, moreover. Ekaha, one. Eva, certainly. Artaha, purpose. Bhagavat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shabda, by the words. Lakshanaha, signified. Philosophical research culminates in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After achieving this understanding, when one becomes free from the material modes of nature, he attains the stage of devotional service. Either by devotional service directly or by philosophical research, one has to find the same destination, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many lives of philosophical research, the wise man ultimately comes to the point of knowing that Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is everything, and therefore he surrenders unto him. Such serious students in philosophical research are rare because they are very great souls. If by philosophical research one cannot come to the point of understanding the Supreme Person, then his task is not finished. His search in knowledge is still to be continued until he comes to the point of understanding the Supreme Lord in devotional service. Om Jnana-timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakata Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Pandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapatakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Shagrashatam Shahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Valita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute, Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hori Priye. Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhobhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Kapil Dev has described the science of Sankhya philosophy, distinguishing between Prakriti, material nature, and Purusha, the living entity, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now he says that knowledge and devotional service are the same because the path of knowledge brings one to the same destination. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, after many, many births, Gyanavan, when one actually becomes accomplished in knowledge, then Mam Prabhadyate, one surrenders to Krishna. Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Krishna's everything, let me surrender. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. But among philosophers, to find such an advanced transcendentalist is rare. The opportunity for direct touch with the personality of Godhead is given in Bhagavad Gita, where it is also said that those who take to other processes, namely the processes of philosophical speculation and mystic yoga practice, have much trouble. After many, many years of much trouble, a yogi or wise philosopher may come to him, but his path is very troublesome, whereas the path of devotional service is easy for everyone. Klesho Dikataraste Sham Avyakta Sakta Chetasam. In the 12th chapter, Arjuna inquired, which is who know you the most clearly, the impersonalists or the personalists? Who's the better transcendentalist? And Krishna clearly says that the devotee is in the superior position. But the impersonalists also can attain Krishna. But klesho dikataraste, they have to undergo lots and lots of trouble. Avyakta asakta chetasam, because their minds are attached to something invisible, indefinite. So try to fix your mind on something invisible, indefinite, with no qualities, no form, no name, no activities. How easy is that? So those who take the impersonal path by speculating, not this, not that, not this, not that, will have a very troublesome time of it. And therefore the direct path of Bhakti Yoga is recommended. One can achieve the result of wise philosophical speculation simply by discharging devotional service. And unless one reaches the point of understanding the personality of Godhead by his mental speculation, all his research work is said to be simply a labor of love If one undergoes the philosophical process but doesn't come to the point of Krishna consciousness, then his work is described as like that of a person who's beating grains that have already been beaten. There's nothing left but husk, but he's beating the husk and expecting to get some grain. It doesn't work that way. So what does he get for that work? Just the work. But he doesn't get any profit. So those who are simply speculating but don't come to the point of Krishna consciousness are only undergoing what Prabhupada calls a labor of love. The ultimate destination of the wise philosopher is to merge in the impersonal Brahma. But that Brahma is the effulgence of the Supreme Person. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham amritasya vyayasya cha. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahma, which is indestructible and is the supreme bliss. The Lord is the supreme reservoir of all pleasure, including Brahma pleasure. Therefore, one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead is said to be already realized in impersonal Brahma and Paramatma. In the Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord says there's no difference between Karma Yoga, or devotional service, and Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga pratag bhala pravadanti avipaschitaha ekam me abhyastitag samyak vindate ubayor vindate palam. Only a childish person discriminates between yoga and Sankhya, or between devotional service and philosophical speculation, because one who performs one process will come to the same goal as the one who performs the other process. They're both targeting the absolute truth, Brahma. Still, the devotees on the superior platform, because the Sankhya philosopher, the mental speculator, has further to go and a harder way to travel, because he has to finally come to the point, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Krishna is everything, now let me surrender and begin devotional service. But the devotee has already surpassed all that, and therefore his platform is better. By realizing the personality of Godhead, you automatically realize the impersonal Brahma, or the localized Paramatma. But the person who's only realized the impersonal Brahma, or localized Paramatma, still has further to go. All right, are there any questions? Ekam apyastita samyak upayor vindate param.
Right. I think it's about to die, but we'll do the best we can.
So my question is that...
No, loud.
My question is that trying to realize Supreme Personality of Godhead using intellectual abilities.
Let's do it this way, loud and without the microphone.
Just speak into the small one.
No, just put it aside and speak loud. I'll repeat it anyway, so you don't have to worry about it.
So my question is that it is said that if we try to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by our intellectual abilities,
One tries to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead
by using our intellectual
by
abilities,
using our intellectual abilities.
then that is called the labor of love.
And that is causal. No, not exactly. If one tries to understand the personality of Godhead, then it has value. If one is trying to understand the absolute truth in an impersonal way, then it's likely to be a labor of love, because that path is so arduous, so difficult.
So here the labor of love has a negative connotation.
Yeah. All you get is the labor. So it's negative, yes. Like beating an empty patty, you don't get anything from it.
Okay.
Or those who are taking the impersonal path, it's very difficult, and they don't achieve the same results very easily. The devotee surpasses the impersonalist and realizes the personality of Godhead. So if one is intelligent, then yes, apply your intelligence to the personality of Godhead. One won't be able to understand the personality of Godhead simply by intelligence. But if one is intelligent, one surrenders to Him, and by His grace, then one gets some understanding. Is that okay?
So is it recommended intelligent people?
Is it recommended?
Is it recommended for intelligent people to take the path of using their intelligence to serve the Lord?
Slower and louder.
Is it recommended for intelligent people to understand?
Is it recommended for which people?
Intelligent people to use their intellectual abilities to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Is it recommended for intelligent people to use their intellectual abilities to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Yes.
Or directly surrender into Him?
Or
Directly surrender into Him?
Well, that's, if they use their intelligence best, then they'll directly surrender to Him. Atapi te deva padam bhajam tvaya prasadaleshana grihite janati tattvam bhagavan miham chanya ekopi chiram pichinvam. Lord Brahma says, my dear Lord, Deva, Atapi te Deva Padambhujam Dvaya Prasadaleshana Grihite. A person who's gotten a little fragment of mercy from your lotus feet, Prasadaleshana Grihite. Janati Tattvam Bhagavan Mahimno. He can know something of your glories. Nachanya Ekopi Chiram Vichintam. Not the person who's spending years and years and years thinking and speculating and trying to understand, maybe like this, maybe like that, could be this, could be that, on the other hand, this argument, that argument. He'll have a hard time understanding. But a person who gets a little fragment of mercy from Krishna can understand Him. There are so many great, if you go to the universities, into the philosophy department, there are people who are really philosophers, and they're studying Kant and Hegel and Heidegger and this one and that one. And so many. And they're talking and they're talking and they're talking and they're writing papers and they're publishing and they're writing books and they don't understand beans about the absolute truth. They're expert in understanding arguments, symbolic logic. They're super. But do they understand who they are? Do they understand who God is? Do they understand the relationship? No. No, maybe he gave them. They're wasting their time. And someone who comes to the Hare Krishna movement, he chants, he dances, he surrenders to Krishna, he becomes the best of philosophers. Mahatma Sudurlabha. It's not that devotees have no philosophy. They have the greatest philosophers, Jiva Goswami, Ramanujacharya, big philosophers. But they're not and they can hold their own against logic, analysis, this, that. But their knowledge comes from understanding the personality of Godhead by devotional service. Bhaktya mama vichāpati. One understands the personality of Godhead by the grace of the personality of Godhead. Otherwise, one can go on speculating for years and years and not reach the tip of the toe. Govinda. Is that okay? Yes.
Thank you for the class, Maharaj. So my question, it was something I was discussing with another devotee, how within our process of bhakti yoga, there is an element of jnana, because we're reading scriptures that are talking about Sankhya and yoga, and are describing like a progressive path, how we can realize the truth in what we're doing. But there are some devotees that have completely not utilized this jnana element. Like, for example, Gorakishora Das Babaji, who was illiterate and didn't read.
Illiterate doesn't mean that he didn't have jnana. Literate doesn't exclude jnana. There's so many people who are highly literate and they're fools. So just literary ability is not the index of jnana, of knowledge. He had very good knowledge.
So some devotees are getting that knowledge without making much endeavor in philosophical understanding, whereas some devotees have to make a lot of endeavor in philosophical understanding. Like, for example, one might study the scriptures a lot, or one might only study the scriptures a little bit, but do a lot of service. So, could you explain that?
Kinds of people have different abilities. Someone has intellectual ability, someone has musical ability, someone has cooking ability, someone has money-making ability. So everyone should use that ability to serve Krishna. Yad karoshi, tat kurusha manarpana. Devotees shouldn't neglect knowledge, otherwise it becomes sentiment. It becomes sentiment that, why are you doing this? Oh, because I love Krishna. Didn't you know that Krishna is the devil? Oh no, I didn't know. Yes, he's the devil. Oh. Comes on sentiment, he goes on sentiment. Because he has no his sentiment's not that strong. Therefore he's called Prakrita Bhakta, and third class devotee. Third class devotee has weak faith and weak knowledge. Second class devotee has medium strength faith and medium strength knowledge. And first class devotee has strong knowledge and strong faith. Knowledge really means knowledge of Shastra. When you know Shastra, then he has knowledge. Simply to know, I think. This one has said this, that one has said that. I partly agree, I partly disagree. That's not really knowledge. Shastra Chakshusha. When one can see through eyes of Shastra, then he has knowledge. So, in any case, the devotees are not weak on knowledge. They have knowledge from Shastra, not from speculation. So they leapfrog over the jnanis who are simply talking and speculating. But some devotees will become very accomplished in scriptural knowledge, philosophy, logic, just like Jiva Goswami. He studied Sanskrit in Benares. He became a great philosopher. And Gorakishora Das Babaji Maharaj didn't become a great scholar of Sanskrit, as he said, he was illiterate. So, in different ways, different devotees may serve Krishna. Some may be very much involved in intellectual activities, but they all have knowledge. that okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I'm wondering, so it's two questions.
Two questions.
The first is, it's mentioned philosophical speculation and mental speculation.
I mentioned philosophical speculation and mental speculation. I don't think I did, but anyway, go ahead.
I think it was in the purport, or at least he used those two terms. I've seen it elsewhere.
Yeah, they use, both Prabhupada uses them more or less interchangeably.
Okay, so that answers that. And then the second is, how do we use philosophical speculation in a way that actually brings us deeper into our service, or deeper
How
into
do
our...
we use philosophical speculation in a way that actually brings us deeper into our service? By thinking of what Krishna says. It's not the... Prabhupada sometimes distinguishes mental speculation and philosophical speculation. Whatever terms you use. One kind of speculation is just going on and arguments and so on and so on. Thesis and antithesis and blah, blah, blah. But another kind of speculation is, like Krishna is saying something, and we think about it. We try to understand how that's so, how that works, so that it becomes Vijñāna, realized knowledge. Prabhupada gave the example that Krishna says, I'm the taste of water. So, all right, we accept Krishna's the taste of water. Okay, done. But the thoughtful devotee will think, how is it that Krishna is the taste of water? And go on thinking, how is it that, what water? Is it the New York City tap water? Or is it the more pure form of water? And what is it that he's the taste of water? Or he'll go even further, Prabhupada took it, I'm the taste of liquid. So he's even the taste of wine. So even the drunkard can become Krishna conscious. Meditate on what you're drinking and see it as representing Krishna. So that's a kind of thought.
So when we hit challenging verses...
A little louder, would you?
So when we hit challenging verses, simply the act of constantly meditating...
When we come to philosophical verses,
that
you see, the microphone doesn't do anything for me. It's great for the people out there, but it doesn't help me at all. For that, for me, you have to just speak up. Yeah, that's good for everybody else.
So when we hit challenging verses,
when we hit challenging verses, then
just the act of meditating on what it means.
Act of meditating on it.
That alone is going to broaden our sense.
That will broaden our understanding and help us. And then if we read the commentary by the acharyas, that will further help us. That we think, well, what does this mean? And don't sit that way in front of the deity. Hare Krishna. Not in front of the deity, sitting this way. Thank you. So we can think about it and think about it, still thinking we may not really understand. But if we hear, we may inquire from the spiritual master or hear from the acharyas, then that will give us clearer understanding. Or even after hearing, we may not understand, but by serving, gradually it becomes clear, or Krishna reveals one way or another. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class. I just want to clarify this line in the purport, where Prabhupada said, the Lord is the supreme reservoir of all pleasure, including Brahman pleasure. So is that referring to the absence of suffering?
The Lord is the reservoir of all pleasure, including Brahma pleasure. Does that refer to the absence of suffering? No, Brahmananda, there's pleasure. In Brahma's itself is the reservoir of pleasure. Sukasya kantikasya cha. The impersonal Brahma is described. as Shashvatasya cha dharmasya, sukasya aikantikasya cha, reservoir of pleasure. I think maybe Vishnu had something about that. Let's see. Prabhupada talks about this in the next purport, that there's unlimited pleasure in Brahma, but you can go beyond that pleasure to the pleasure of Param Brahma, the personality of Godhead. There's Ramante Yogino Nante, Ramante Yogino Nante, Satyananda Chadagmani. The impersonal Brahma is the reservoir of all pleasure, but Krishna is the basis. Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. Brahma's resting on me. So how much pleasure is there in Krishna? Therefore, the Vaishnavas say that compared to the pleasure of devotional service, that ocean of pleasure in devotional service, the pleasure in Brahmananda, the impersonal pleasure, is like the water in the hoof print of a calf. So it's quite something, because the yogis are looking for that Brahmananda, the pleasure of merging with the impersonal Brahma. It's beyond all the pleasures of this material world, beyond the pleasures enjoyed in the heavenly planets, beyond any other pleasures, the impersonal Brahma pleasure. But that pleasure is like little few drops of water in a calf's hoof print compared to the ocean of devotional service. Is that okay? Anything else? Yes. Anyway, I'll repeat.
The verse mentions that in order to even get to the platform of devotional service, one actually has to be freed from material contamination.
To get to the platform of devotional service, one has to be freed from the platform of material contamination.
The Brahma Bhutta Prasanatma. So we have to be first realized in order to actually be doing devotional service and not be doing something that's just sentiment.
You have to be realized in order to
perform devotional service.
perform devotional service. Or you take it the other way, that if you're performing devotional service, you must be realized.
Yeah, so that's my question. Is it that we're realized now, or is it there's something that we still have to do really before we can attain?
Are we realized now, or is there something we have to do? Prabhupada calls it a process. You must be realized now, or why you've given up material life to come and chant Hare Krishna. You must have some realization of what are you doing here? We're not paying you, I think. So why are you here? You must have some kind of realization. But that doesn't mean that your realization is the highest level of realization you can achieve. Still, you can go further. So Prabhupada called it a gradual cleansing process. Even if we clean a little bit, it's like you clean a room. When it starts to become clean, you go, wow. You know, I didn't realize that was blue. But that doesn't mean that it's now completely clean. You can clean it more. And then you see, wow, it's got not only blue, but it's blue flowers. You can see more. So if someone's engaged in devotional service, it means he already has realization. Or Or if one has some realization, then he'll take to devotional service. So the two go together. But the devotee is taken to be on the transcendental platform. Otherwise, how has he become a devotee? Is that all right? Therefore, the chanting is effective, Prabhupada said, because it brings us immediately to the transcendental platform.
But I don't feel like I'm on the transcendental platform.
You don't feel like you're on the transcendental platform. Well, two explanations. One is you still have further to go to realize the transcendental platform. And another is that devotee never feels, yes, now I'm on the transcendental. He always thinks that, no, I'm not doing very well. We shouldn't be overconfident. Now I'm transcendental. Maya can't touch me. Then Maya will grab us first thing. But we should know that we must have achieved some transcendental platform, otherwise how have we come to be engaged in Krishna's service? And the impersonalists, they still have to go further because they've not engaged in devotional service. Even if somehow they attain the transcendental platform, which is a very hard thing to do by their method, they still have to go further to become devotees. Just like postgraduate course. Postgraduate doesn't mean you know everything, but you must have graduated from the lower level of education. Otherwise, how you come to the... You've finished your undergraduate, therefore now you're in the graduate program. But still in the graduate program, now I have perfect knowledge. No, he thinks, maybe I should have studied harder when I was an undergraduate because I don't understand so many things. Is that all right? Yes?
You were mentioning that to a philosophical person or yogi, that
I mentioned that philosophical speculation is...
a philosophical person or yogi is trying to attain
A philosophical person or a yogi is what?
trying to attain the highest pleasure.
Trying to attain the highest pleasure.
By merging into Brahma.
By merging into Brahma.
So how do you explain to them that actually this is just a drop in the capsule?
So how do you explain to them that this is?
A drop in the capsule. How do you explain to them that this is only a tiny morsel of...
How do you explain to them that it's only a tiny morsel? Well, by association, they may understand it. They're going on as, yes, I'm on the transcendental platform, but they're not. Because they have no practical engagement. They're not really yogis. The yogis off in the Himalayas, and they're totally absorbed in the bliss of Brahma. They're in Manhattan or Brooklyn or something, and they're engrossed in sense gratification, but they've got this philosophy, everything is one, everything is God, blah, 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 blah. But, all right, everything is one, everything is God, then what do? Well, I go back and watch Netflix. Because they don't have practical engagement. I had one relative, he's a Buddhist, and he was talking about how hard it was to stop the mind. The mind is always coming back. And that's the problem. You're trying to stop the mind, but the mind doesn't stop. And so plus he was a sense gratifier at the same time, which is what it is. I'm a sense gratifier. I'm a Buddhist, but I'm a sense gratifier. I'm an Advaitin, but I'm a sense gratifier. Very rare to find anyone who's an impersonalist and not a sense gratifier. They're sense gratifiers with a philosophy. There was a I don't know if they're still around, maybe they are. There's a hamburger chain. And their motto, they showed anyway, I forget exactly, but their motto was the hamburger with the college education. You know, they're superior. Now that's what they are. They're sense gratifiers with a philosophy. But they're sense gratifiers. So they're not accomplished transcendentalists. But the devotees are yoga, that distinction is made in the Bhagavad Gita, yoga rudhasya tasya. They're the beginning transcendentalists and the advanced transcendentalists. For the beginners, they have to do a lot of work. And the advanced transcendentalists are absorbed in meditation on the absolute truth. So the impersonalists are the beginners. They have some idea there's an absolute truth they'd like to know more about, but they don't have a clear goal, and they have a very difficult goal, and they don't have a very clear process. And if the process is clear, they don't follow it. But the devotees have a clear goal, and the goal is definite. It's not just nebulous. Krishna's form, qualities, pastimes, and they can absorb their minds in thinking all these things, and they have practical activity and service. The devotional platform is so far superior to the theoretical platform of spirituality. Spirituality generally means impersonal, nebulous, indefinite, vague. Oh, that's the beginning platform. At least they're interested in spirit, good. But the idea is not very clear. And the processes. If you want to understand anyone's path, there's just two questions you have to ask. This is so good. This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The discussion is there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is the goal? And what is the means to reach the goal? Sadhya and sadhana. Sadhya means the goal that you want to reach. And sadhana, what's your process? I was with some person a couple of days back. He's the follower of some guru or other. And I just asked him those two questions. What's your goal? What's your method? And it really becomes clear. You know, the goal is not very well defined, and the method is also kind of iffy. Sounds good until you ask these two questions. What's your goal? Well, our goal is not very clear goal. And what's your method? Your method is something that's not all that great. Any path, what's your goal? And how are you going to get there?
I was just wondering the verse number I saw. I was wondering what the verse number is, where that Chaitanya Charitamrita verse, where those...
You're wondering what the verse number. Whenever you wonder about a verse number, don't ask me, because I never know the numbers. We're supposed to stop, right? Let us stop. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jayadvaita Maharaj ki
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.